We had 3 teams, and there were 30 odd teams, I think, from Holland, France, Belgium, Germany, had all come and all fished this match. And I was like, wow, this feeder fishing's really taking off. And I thought, I'm going to go back home, I'm not going to be able to find a match. So
Sensors are going to love this video, aren't they? They're going to be like, Mick, you're signed.
But you can achieve it with a nice farm ground. I were always using our type of fishing.
I'm saying it's dead in the water at the moment. Gone, isn't it?
Go on. Episode 5, Joe, of the mixing bowl.
Isn't it going quick? Sorry, I'm just mid-brew there.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Time does fly when you're having fun. And I hope you lot are having fun listening and watching, because judging by the comments, so I know we say it every week, but really good, isn't it?
It's very good. And of course, the subjects, the topics.
Promote discussion, don't they?
It's perpetual motion, and we're now getting to the swing of it, and people are obviously wanting to put their thoughts forward. We've had some interesting topics, and one that seems to have been rolling is obviously about getting people fishing and not getting fishing. And I think we were chatting, weren't we, driving here today, about the fact that we're probably going to have to make that a video all on its own.
That's more than just us spitballing ideas, isn't it? It needs some serious thought, doesn't it?
But the good news is it's provoked some responses from other people in our position who are interested in it, people in your position who are very interested in it.
Some really good ideas as well. Coming our way.
The former editor of the Angling Times put some great points forward. And I think we will address that in a separate, I don't know, mini mixing bowl or offshoot after hours mixing bowl, because it's a big, but rest assured, it's quite clear that there's a passion for it.
Definitely.
And
some good ideas, I think, ultimately.
There's some great ideas, and there's some passion as well. And one thing that I've realised is it's far, far bigger than
it's almost like you'd need to get someone, and that's what you're doing. Do you know what I mean? Like an outside person who you just like, right, your job is to come up with some and get it going. Come up with some matches or events.
It's a national project, isn't it?
It's a project thing, isn't it? And it might be that the Canal and River Trust or whoever, Angling Trust, listen to this and maybe approach us, and maybe we can all work together, because ultimately we all have to work together, don't we, to make this all happen?
Without doubt.
To get more people on the bank.
Together we're stronger, I think, is the cliche.
And I don't want to go off on the tangent, but I listened to a podcast from Martin Bowler not so long ago, and he was mentioning how companies like North Faces and people like that have made outdoor life cool. Do you know what I mean? They've made North Face into this brand that's like widespread now, haven't they? And it's all focused on people climbing mountains and canoeing and whatever, doing all these outdoor activities. And he's like, why can't we channel that with fishing? Because we go to amazing places, we do amazing things, with amazing people, we see amazing sights. It's there, isn't it? It's in our grasp, yet no one's managed to like harness it.
No, I think I know the fundamental reason for that. North Face are obviously have been going for years, a lot longer than most people realise. It's not don't just happen. No. When you look back into the history of a lot of brands, most of them are 100 years old. It's only that they've become to the fore. One modern brand, which is not as modern as you think, because I remember it being adverts on Pictures, and when I used to go to Pictures regular, and I think I lived at home, that's how long ago it is, and that's Red Bull. And a very good friend of mine, well, I'm friends with his dad, but I know Greg really well. There's a guy called Greg Callahan, and he's a enduro mountain bike. Sorry, Greg, if I've said that wrong, but I think it's enduro mountain bike, and he's world class. He's in the top 10 every year, and he's sponsored by Red Bull. Enduro mountain biking. That's not mountain biking. That's like saying
it's like a next level or next 3 or 4
feeder
levels
masters in the world of world angling. We've got bass fishing here. And down here there's feeder masters, and he does that. And I know for a fact that he has a sponsorship, and the level and effort that they go to bring Red Bull into their sport, but it's based around one thing: hard cash. Lots of it, lots and lots and lots of it. Greg, they've funded Greg along with his other team sponsors to be able to do that. And the North Face, and the problem with the angling industry is that we talked about this before. It's fragmented. So you've got a tackle shop, for instance, just looking at a tackle shop, and all these different brands, and the carp brands and the match brands and the sea brands and the game brands don't even know each other, never mind work together.
Yeah.
We're trying to get this global brand thing going. We're not trying to get it going, but it has got going. Happened, where the big five, Rapala, Shimano, Daiwa, and Rather Outdoors as they're coming through these days. Anyway, and I think that's one of the problems. Funding is a massive issue.
Yeah.
The Angling Trust are massively underfunded. That's a subject for another day.
Yeah.
Don't want to get too deep into that, but I've chatted to them quite a lot, and it's quite obvious
down there, are they?
When you look at it from a business with a business brain, because nothing exists without money. The NHS, all we ever talk about is money. It shouldn't be about money, should it? It should be about healthcare, and fishing should be about fishing, but without money, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So it is a
but chicken and the egg, isn't it? A little bit.
Absolutely, of course it is. But this is a fishing chat, and we're just coming out of winter, Joe, aren't we?
We're starting to get to good time. Rivers are getting ready to close, aren't they?
And one thing that one of you guys asked is about the light and dark ground bait debate, which coming out of winter is probably the right time to talk about it. It's not exclusive to winter, is it? But
no.
Are you a light or a dark fan?
Dark. I've just always used dark ground bait within reason. You know, obviously we grew up fishing the canals in South Yorkshire, and they were largely clear. Sometimes they had a bit of a stain to them, but largely pretty clear. And dark ground baits just fit in.
Why?
It's a confidence again. We keep coming back to this thing every single week, don't we? About confidence, and that dark ground bait matching the bed of the canal bed or whatever just seems to work. Having said that, I won a lot of money on the canals using bread, which is white. So it flies in the face of all of that, doesn't it? Because we use liquidised bread, which couldn't be more the opposite with dark ground bait, and we catch loads. So whether it's in our head, and I always remember at Barston a few years ago, quite a few years ago actually, it was really coloured, and I ended up using a yellow ground bait in the depth for winter, like a vibrant, I over-dyed it if anything, it was absolutely vibrant yellow, and I come second in the match. I had one of my best ever days at Barston, and I was like, is that the ground bait that's made the difference, or is it a visual attraction? I don't know. Maybe sometimes we're too discreet with our ground bait. I'm not too sure. What do you think? I think you're naturally leaning dark, aren't you, from what I've seen?
Yeah, I prefer a dark, match the hatch type.
Green's good, isn't it?
Green's great. I always thought that it should be commensurate to the bottom. If I were fishing on this wooden floor here, I'd try and match it to the same colour.
Why is that though? Why do we do that?
Because I think the fish feels,
comfy.
The theory behind using dark ground baits in some places is that the fish feel more comfortable, settle over the top of it. And I think it's interesting what you said, that you've got that yellow ground bait, but you use it at Barston.
Barston's very coloured, and it was coloured as well.
But Barston's a commercial fishery.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but carp especially, commercial fish, you want them to see the bait.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Because you're fishing for one at a time.
Yeah.
If you're trying to get 20 bream to stay in an area, you're trying to build a big swim at Ferry Meadows, for instance, then do you want them to be comfortable over the top of this bait? And I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying that you should have dark ground bait at Ferry, because I've used light ground bait at Ferry, and Lee Kerry and myself went, and I were on dark, he were on light, and he caught, and I didn't that day, and then the next time I caught and he didn't. And
I always remember we were practicing for the Division 1 on the Huntsbill and the King Sedgemoor drain, I think it was called, and we had a line-up at Barnsley, and Tony Woods, he was in the middle of us all, and he used red magic, which couldn't be more blatant on his cheek.
Probably because that's all he could find in his bag.
He wanged it across to the other side by hand, caught these skimmers and bream. Everyone else is prattling about catching little roach now, and he's like, well, this red ground bait, innit? And we come away like, what? I've never even thought about using red ground bait.
Red ground bait's very popular amongst the general population
I've used it loads
of anglers.
For carp in the edge and stuff, but I've never even thought about using it for...
Yeah, you'd use it there, but why wouldn't you use it out there?
Yeah, but it was very coloured water, whereas this was gin clear canal. Do you know what I mean? It was like...
But you put a red maggot on.
Put a red maggot on.
why do you put red maggot on? Because you catch fish on,
yeah.
You catch fish on red maggots, don't you? But what's more visible than a white maggot?
Yeah. Well, we don't know, do we?
If you caught, let me just ask you this: if you caught 10 fish at the start on bread punch, and then you wanted to go on your maggot line, you put a red maggot on. You won't put a white maggot on. You wouldn't even take white maggots, but you've took white bread.
In that respect, then, why do we try and hide our ground bait then?
Because I think we
need to hide it.
We think that it's discreet and fish are going to come over the top of it. Because soil worked very well in places when they didn't. Well, I think it's when they don't want food.
Yes.
And then you're highlighting the ingredients. So, for instance, if you're putting chopped worm in and you want the fish to smell the chopped worm, taste the chopped worm, or you just want casters, then it's almost you put the prawns on a bed of lettuce that nobody's going to eat at the buffet, and it's to highlight the fact that the prawns. If you just put one prawn on,
it looks a bit rubbish.
It lifts it.
Yeah,
it's a carrier. I mean, was back in years ago when they used to throw balls of ground bait in on bream venues.
Was there white?
I'm led to believe that it was to carry the 4 pints of casters or 4 pints of squats.
What they were putting in?
Not the ground, not the bread feed.
It was just a carrier.
Just something to get your casters to the other side.
Yeah. Because they would have been bomb fishing then, would they?
Yeah.
Rather than feeder.
And then we automatically then bring into the world of fish meal, then the ground bait is the food. But you go abroad sometimes and the ground bait is the food because the fish eat the ground bait, especially on a good venue.
I know even when we used to fish like joker fishing a lot, I used to get a black ground bait and I used to put black dye in it as well to make it really black. I was a big fan of that.
Clear venue?
It was clear venue, yeah. It was a canal, Stainforth Canal, which is a clear venue in winter. But again, is it just one of these things that we do for our own benefit rather than the fish? I don't know. Because I'd never ever gambled the other way to find out.
On a clear canal, if you fish bread, I'm right in saying that you'd probably only catch for a short period at the beginning?
No, because it was different then. It was Dennis White, who taught us, again, practicing for a national. He was bread mad at the time, fishing bread everywhere, doing really well. And he was convinced that it was an all-day thing, we just weren't feeding it right.
Yeah, makes sense.
Because obviously they actually eat every bit of the bread and then move on because there's none left. And he obviously worked out that you could just keep feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. And I had a really good run on the Stainey doing exactly that. And I'd go through 3 or 4 loaves of bread, which is a lot in it, and bulk it out with white crumb and all sorts. And I've had a few near 20-pound weights on bread, fishing it for the full 5 hours, just feeding it all the time. So
rather than just a pinch at the beginning to catch.
That was the traditional, wasn't it? Oh, put one ball in and fish it until it runs out of fish and then do something else. But why has it ran out? Why have you run out of bites? Because the bait's gone. It's obvious, isn't it?
That's interesting.
Yeah, and he taught me that, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant, and it's like on these drains and stuff like that. They can catch for 5 hours if they just keep throwing it in.
But they're ordinarily more coloured, aren't they?
Yeah.
The Glen and places like that.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Quoting the Kevin Ashurst chat again, because of course he was in the sort of infancy. He was involved in the infancy of bloodworm fishing in the UK, and something he said. He just said it because he natural amazing angler, and he's gone. Well, obviously bloodworm fishing. The trick was to put all the bait in, enough to last. Because when the fish start to empty and they're getting to the end of your food that you've put in, they go a bit wappy, and then when you refeed it's never the same.
Yeah.
So his idea was to feed it all at the start and therefore catch a bit like what you're saying about the bread.
Yeah.
But if you want fish to settle over the top of something and stay all day, then, because I'm thinking visibility and then unvisibility.
Yeah.
They're the two things what we're talking about, aren't we?
Aren't they, I suppose?
Yeah, I remember Sam Wildsmith, our teammate from Barnsley. When he were importing bloodworm and joker, the guy that supplied him gave him some mix, which he's gone. This one.
Sam always had some mix.
Yeah, this one for roach, this one for bream, and he came on a winter league on Aubrey Canal up in West Yorkshire. And he bowled it in, and it were basically like...
And this is a narrow canal, isn't it?
Caramel coloured, like a lot of brown crumb.
Yeah.
It weren't. It was a beautiful mix that Johan had given him. And he caught loads of fish. And that was the complete opposite to every single other person on the match. But we're all using the dark ground bait.
Yeah.
Did he attract all the fish? Because they could see it.
Good chance. There's a good chance, isn't there? Confidence is such a big thing in fishing, isn't it? And we say it every single time. And if dark ground bait makes you confident, then you're going to catch more fish, aren't you? But ultimately, they do work, don't the dark ground baits? And I think, as a general rule, clear water dark, winter dark, and then I think as soon as it gets a bit milder, you can get a bit more adventurous, can't you? I know. I was chatting to Steve Ringer, and he was saying how red used to be amazing at Boddington in the summer. Like a really good colour was red. Like you could attack it with red. Fish had obviously come to it. And we see it with like the goos and stuff like that. Them sort of, like that luminous green thing, and that'll even work in winter.
Yeah, you've got
and it's a luminous green cloud in your bed.
Sensate powder
Sensate powder and all that stuff. And like I use red paste in the summer. It's a minefield, isn't it? I can see why people ask.
They know it's different. The fish know it's different. And I'm probably going to say that would it be fair to comment that the visibility food thing. So if you don't want to feed them, but you want them to see it and use the visibility as the attractant is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Then you could have a low food content feed. I'm not going to use the word ground bait because all feed is ground bait, isn't it? Yeah. If you put in a pint of maggots with pole pot, it's ground bait. It's bait in the swim. If you're looking for visibility and not food, then maybe bright colours are an answer to that. Like a goo.
I always think, like we was talking. Obviously, I've done a lot of that method feeder fishing this year, where you're chucking out one feeder and asking that one feeder full of bait to do a lot for you, aren't you? And I think if you can tick the 3 boxes, visual, smell, and taste. If you can do all them things, and you're ticking every box, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? There's not a sense that every bit of sense that fish has got is covered, isn't it? That's what I like to look at it. So,
but I always like to know which one's working.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. When you like relying on one thing, you don't know which one's working, is it? So if you cover all 3, then you've got a chance, haven't you?
Scatterbomb.
Yeah, you've got a chance, haven't you? So if you've got a bright pellet, a pellet that you know they like, and then some smell as well, and you've covered it, haven't you?
So if you're ever going to shoot a stallion, you'll take a shotgun, basically.
Yeah, well, yeah, scatterbomb.
Yeah,
yeah.
I like your style.
Like it, yeah.
No, but there's no. I think what we're saying from it is there's no hard and fast answer. I mean, you know, the chap that asked us, what is the reason why you would use light ground bait, dark ground bait? Do you use light or darks? And naturally, in winter when it's clearer, you're inclined to do that.
Have you ever had any big results though, going against the grain? Say on a clear water, going and attacking with like a yellow or a bright colour?
Yeah, I went through a spell of using a Sona Baits ground bait called Bream Feeder.
The yellow one?
Bright yellow.
Yeah.
Because
is that fish meal?
Because I'm a fan of yellow Sensus Trassics, which is basically it's a powdered dye, but it's almost like clay.
Yeah.
It's not
quite powerful though, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not for dyeing bait, in my opinion. It's for creating a cloud.
Yeah.
But it does both, you see. So, because it's a fine,
but obviously
very fine powder.
It actually washes out, doesn't it?
It does wash out.
So you get this lovely dark ground bait, but it actually goes brown in the water.
Yeah, because it's got its own. It's not soaking into the ground bait. It becomes part of the ground bait.
Yeah.
And I'm a massive fan of that. And I was using some of that in, I think it was Southfield in the early days when we started going there. So I was using fish meal, and then I think I was probably using the koi green, the Supercrush green. Half mixed with that, and half was the Bream Feeder, because it had these big particles in it that were yellow, which was corn, which a dietitian once told a friend of mine who was suffering from a gut problem, don't eat corn, it's a waste of your body's energy. You don't get anything from it, there's no food content in it. So I'm not frightened of feeding corn bits because I think they can eat them and it don't fill them up. So it had corn bits in which were visual, which meant you didn't have to put any loose feed in, and then I would add in the yellow Trassics, which Sona Baits had put some of that into the similar sort of additive, and that would create a cloud, so that I could actually use the ground bait as the whole power. Didn't have to put any feed in when I was fishing for a bite. So then when you got double maggot on or a worm on, the ground bait did all the work, because you can't lose feed at 60 metres. So I had to use the power of the ingredients and the activity
to make it work for you,
and make the ground bait do all the graft. And I got that with a bit of a cloud going on, a few specks of thing, the taste of the fish meal, and that sort of thing worked really well. I've also...
So that is doing what I was just talking about, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You ticked off all 3 boxes, didn't you?
When I first went on the tidal, the second phase of the tidal, which is about 10, 12 years ago.
Trend.
Tidal trend, yeah. So feeder fishing were on the up. I was obviously involved in team, and there were teams of 4 thing. And the lads from Lincoln, I wanted to fish it because it were feeder fishing. Yeah. So I got involved with lads from Lincoln, and I had a run and a half. I went there and I was catching fish. I'll never forget it. One particular day, I think £3 was the best weight in the section. I had 14 pound of roach and hybrids, and I was taking Mickey.
Yeah.
And it were running really clear, the river that summer. And I got this Trassix thing in my head, so I got my Super Crush Green, which was
2 fish meal in it, even on the Trent.
Yeah. And I was getting brown crumb, fine brown crumb, Super Crush Green, and half a tub of Trassix.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous,
That's
really.
A lot, yeah.
And I wait until everybody had gone, and I got it all in a bucket, keeping it there like that. And I reckon what were happening, because this is how my brain was working. When the tide came on the tidal, especially in summer when the river is low and the tides flood, I think they call it flooding in. It's backing up, we call it.
Yeah.
So I'm saying it's a flood tide, so it's coming up, but it's backing up. So the river's coming backwards. And as it comes backwards, because it's low, because it's down at the bottom, because the tide's gone out.
Yeah, it's as low as it can be.
It disturbs the bottom, and it creates colour. And the fishing, when it's like that on a low river and a tide backing up, the fish go crackers.
That's when they
love it.
Right.
Pull your rod in. Skimmers, hybrids, big roach, fish you can't catch. So I tried to recreate that colour
throughout the match.
Yeah. And I was fishing single caster.
Very clever.
On a 16 B560, light up length, and big feeder, but you just chuck it in like that, and it'd be, as it's at the bottom, like that, on that rig that we use, a twizzle boom, and I reckon that I was leaving a cloud, because I had got it dead dry. I was putting casters in it and a few bits of chopped worm.
And it'd just come out.
Yeah. And then you'd catch, and then you'd chuck in it, you bite a little bit slow, and there was something wrong. You'd probably catch a fish, you might catch a skimmer. The very next cast, regardless of what had happened, I'd put a worm head on, like that, and you'd catch a skimmer.
Wow.
And the fish had come to the cloud.
So that, so in tune with it.
That additive were incredible. And I did really well for 2 or 3 seasons, especially on a clear river. So that's a visual thing.
I always remember with the, I think it was the Ghent rowing course or something you'd fished.
Yeah.
And I remember speaking to Steve Ringer about it, and he was on about the glow that your groundbait gave off, like a green glow, how it was really important. I remember going to seeing his mix at Ferry and stuff, and it was almost like beaming out of it.
Yeah, he were adding a yellow powder to a green groundbait and creating this
really like
fluorescent green.
Yeah.
My groundbait were almost orange.
Yeah.
So I was using
similar theory, isn't it? It's a bright.
Because these fish were swimming around in what basically is a big bathtub. It's a bit like Open Pier Point, if you've ever had the luxury of seeing that.
Like concrete sides and...
Yeah, so it's just a big bathtub, 2,000 metres long, and the fish are just, it's like not really natural. There's nowhere for them to hide, concrete sides. So you had to then...
The bait becomes a focal point.
Ring the dinner bell, come here.
Come here, lads.
But they were so hard to catch, you didn't really want to pile bait in, but you had to give them the visual. So it were a neon sign, food here. Well, there weren't any food there. There were a bit of joker, a bit of chopped worm, and your hook, and you tricked them. A bit like the tidal thing.
Yeah, and it's me freeing the slopping in the summer when I'm doing my shallow fishing.
Another place is a place called Langall Lake, which is more on the map these days than it were then. There were some and it's only about 10 miles from me. Beautiful park lake. And that would, when I first started going there, it were a bit like it is now. It were gin clear, and there were some resident tench, and weed beds everywhere. It's dead shallow, but a load of bream, and the bottom was like a clay colour, and you'd be fishing, and if a tench came in your peg, and you looked out to where when you cast your feeder out, you could see that there were a tench in your peg.
Because it would colour up.
Yeah, it looked like somebody had poured tea, milky tea into the middle
So
of
you knew you were going to get one? Oh, I had a chance.
You had to put a fluorescent maggot on, or a fluorescent boilie, because it were coloured, and you'd go like that, you catch a tench. The best thing that could happen was to catch a tench. Didn't particularly play it too hard, let it go in your peg, then you catch bream. So, I do artificial week after.
Trassix again.
Trassix straight in, cage feeder with no lead on it, chuck it in, empty out, chuck it in, empty out, big cloud, next thing, breamer there, you're catching them. So
Sensors are going to love this video, aren't they? They're going to be like, Mick, you're signed.
But you can achieve it with a nice fine ground. I were always using Sonu Supercrust Green, which is dead fine, really fine ground bait, or crust expander.
Something light and
very, very light because it's buoyant, and then you can add milk powder in, or you can colour that with a bit of stuff. Anything like that will do, because you might not be able to get that.
Because there's a
but
thing with Barston now, isn't
clear.
there? I know it's a different subject, but people are trying to cloud the water up at Barston, aren't they, in the summer?
Yeah.
You know, creating a big noise and a big amount of attraction out there.
Yeah.
I think we're learning from carpers, aren't we, on that kind of thing? Because they're big into that, aren't they? Creating clouds.
They're massively into it. What do you think that stuff is that they use?
I don't know.
Like spod.
Like nuts in it, and nut powders and milk powders and all sorts of stuff that they've got going on in there. It's funny actually, because someone mentioned that we were miles behind carp anglers the other day on one of my videos. I've done a thing about a hook length. And he says it just proves how far behind you are from carp anglers because your rigs. My counter argument was our feeding's way better, so we get more chances anyway. Like I think we do feed the swim better, don't we? We're more proactive. We rarely set a trap and just sit there, do we? We're feeding all the time.
Well, the dynamics are different, aren't they?
And I think with fishing with such a small hook that all that mechanic business, what they're looking for, doesn't work with our gear anyway. Our carp mouths are that big, their carp's mouths are that big, aren't they? It's a different ball game.
Because they having to use a massive bait to avoid nuisance fish, the ones that we love catching. So therefore they have to have a bigger hook to create the hook hold. And
I'm not naive enough to think that there isn't stuff we can't learn from carp anglers, because of course there is. I'm sure they're way ahead of us when it comes to bait and certain things and that, but
the elements are so different, aren't they?
We get so many chances, don't we?
You know, I hooked recently on a match. I was fishing single caster because I was trying to catch some perch, and then I was catching carp because they just overrid it up.
Yeah.
You don't need a big boilie on because the carp bullied the other fish away.
You're trying to catch everything, aren't you?
Absolutely. And I'd say ultimately, if you've got big carp in your swim because you're a special angler, there won't be any bream mithering anyway, would there? We know that, don't we?
I'd love to see if, like the carp thing, because all these massive hooks and stuff. I'd love to see if a match angler went and fished in some of their lakes and stuff that they're fishing. If we catch them, these big fish. I know it'd have to be toned up a bit, but it'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you'd have to step it up a little bit. I'm sure you would. Because we catch big fish on a method feeder with 14 on and stuff like that. But ultimately, yeah. Horses for courses, isn't it?
Gone on a right tangent there, haven't we?
Haven't we just? We just love it.
That ground baits are great.
Yeah, exactly. Now we could go on forever, couldn't we?
Yeah, never-ending subject.
And once again, that's fishing. It's not an exact science. You can write as many books on it as you want.
What's your favourite dark ground bait?
It's always been F1 Dark, and then from a cereal-based thing, I like Champion Feed Wonder Black, which is a great, tasty ground bait. I think that's really good. Or a similar ground bait is Black Turbo. Yeah, that's a great one. But F1 Dark is a belter, and of course my favourite strong fish meal is quite dark anyway. Yeah, which is 50/50 Supercrust Green. Which I'm not saying it's black, but it's dark.
Yeah. Dark on the green scale.
Yeah, it's Robin Hood green in it. It's Sherwood Forest green. Very apt for the
British Racing Green.
That's better.
That's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, we're not biased, I know, towards anybody's counter. What about you?
I was thinking back on the Joker days. I always used to use, me and Lee used to do the same mix. We used to use a third of a bag of Secret, sieved off, which was a brown ground bait. Yeah. Third of a bag of Super Match Van der Nijnd, which was a dark ground bait.
Yeah, great ground bait.
Brown crumb, so third, and then we put some black dye in it. And then, some molehills soil as well. So yeah, so
it's black. Sure, you're not goth?
Yeah, I am a bit of a goth. Yeah. You're a bit emo.
Secret. There's a ground bait. You could put fence posts in with that stuff, couldn't you?
That is my favourite ground bait of all
time.
Very foody. Very foody. The fish used to spew it up. You could do all sorts with it. You could mix it dry and it's still gripping your feeder, or you can make a ball out of it. I always remember Dennis doing. I keep bringing Dennis. He did a Maver video when I was younger. And he mixed it up. It was at Larford when they were full of little stockies like that. And he's mixing it up. And it's bone dry, this ground bait. And yet he can still make a big rock hard ball out of it.
Stuff.
Balls it in at Larford on the match lake. And he's catching all these little stockies on it. Yeah.
Funny how a little thing sticking in your
Bright
yellow.
Yeah, very light colour, but it was sticky, wasn't it? Which, when you were fishing with Joker, you wanted the balls to get down and very slow release, didn't you?
That were in the days when it were very difficult to mix ground baits if you weren't experienced.
Yes, you didn't get away with it like you do now.
That's the beauty of
ground baits.
When in my days of selling sonal baits to the industry, I'd say, listen, even I can mix this, an idiot can mix this. Well, like that, pour some water on it. It's almost impossible to ruin it. Whereas when you've got the starches and stuff.
God, that's secret. If you push it too far, you'd never get it back. It'd be a dough, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And World Champion was another one that they did. Because I've always used Van der Nijn ground baits for natural fishing. I think they're brilliant, aren't they? I think Champion feed's very similar, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're an offshoot of...
Yeah, and them two brands, especially Van der Nijn for me, so much confidence.
You think that's the salt content?
Yeah, probably.
Because I'm right in saying the Dutch and Belgian ground baits are more salty than the French.
I never really got on with Sensus ground baits. I could never find the difference between the different bags that I was buying. You know what I mean? Whereas when I used Van der Nijn, probably because I'd always used it, I knew that if I needed a sticky one, I could get Secret or World Champion. If I wanted just to do anything, I'd use Super Match or Super Cup even for canals, and Super Lake then for a bit of all round fishing. So I knew what I was doing with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, isn't it? It's the same with the Sonu now.
Absolutely.
You know
and it's hard, isn't it, to for people who are not experienced to find out what all these ground baits were. Whereas back in the day, we'd all jump on a coach or the train or in your car and get yourself off to the NEC.
Yeah, nice.
Where you would go onto the said Van der Nijn, because they had distributors, the Sensus stands, or any other stands I'm in today to be Bait Tech, Sonu, Mainline, and all your major brands like that. And you'd be able to touch and feel all these ground baits and taste them and smell them. Yeah. That's a shame, isn't it, that we don't have these
public shows.
Yeah, consumer shows, I think.
The big one is obviously the obvious one, isn't it?
Yeah,
which we've been to for a few years now.
Is round about this time of year, coming up, usually early March, so a little while away. But that's for our side of fishing. Carp fishing shows they're
very strong
in their prime, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very strong.
In the season, I think in January, February, and March.
I don't think they go fishing, do they?
There's one every weekend. But for our type of fishing,
I'm saying it's dead in the water at the moment. Gone, isn't it?
Go on.
We obviously supported the Big One show. For the first time we went, and we were all very green, I'd say. We were totally green, weren't we? And we went and we give it our best shot, and we had a great show, and it was busy. And then we went last year with a better idea of what to do. We had a lovely stand, didn't we? We had a much better idea, and it was great. And it was the same, but it was the same people that came from the year before. There was no new interest, and there was only really Guru there. I think Shimano were there, weren't they?
Because they had their new poles.
They had the new poles, and there was Dynamite baits. But other than that, there was very little for the match angler.
No Preston.
No Preston.
No Matrix.
No Matrix.
No Daiwa.
No Daiwa.
No Drennan.
And all of a sudden, for a company like ours, it's very difficult, isn't it, to justify.
Well, we haven't got the pole, have we?
We haven't got, Guru, obviously, we needed Guru there to help us. Because obviously people want to go and see the Guru stand, and there's a result. We get a load of traffic, and it's great. And we love doing it. Ultimately, it's got to be worth it, hasn't it?
Yeah, there's a financial effort and a resource effort, a manpower effort, and because it doesn't just happen. You don't just rock up there and there's a stand. It needs planning, it needs building. You need to understand what your people are looking for, so then you design your stand according to whatever the new products was. Because the first year we went, I think we just launched the first range of extra strong inline floats. The second year we got the second phase of the floats and also detection line. Yeah. So we kind of built our stand around that, but then people come and they go, have you brought your luggage? And no, because we'd have to have a bigger stand, and have you brought this, have you brought that? And as the brand grows, as you've seen, the Guru stand was massive, it becomes a logistical nightmare. Yeah. I remember in the days of when I was with Preston, the budget was about 25 grand.
To do one.
Yeah, because the bigger you stand, the more staff. Yeah. The more staff, the more hotel rooms,
the more steaks,
the more sandwiches, the more bottles of water, travelling, vans, hire, building stands. The whole shooting match just gets bigger and bigger. But yet, when the visitors were there, that cost was irrelevant.
Yeah, we had two great shows, didn't we?
Because you got to smell the ground bait, as it were. That's what brought this conversation up.
I'm sure there's people watching this who went and probably had a great time, chatting to us. And I saw one the other day. A fella said it was really disappointing because I really look forward to having a chat with us. And it is a shame, but ultimately it isn't. The value's not there for anymore.
So what came first, the drop-off of the visitors or the lack of exhibitors? What do you think?
I think the timing is almost like coincided with each other. Because there's no lack of people there, is there?
There's no lack of green camouflage.
But there's a lack of match people. And I think geographically, it's a poor location for our style of fishing, isn't it? It's in the south. Just unfortunately, it just isn't that. It's a carpy show, isn't it? It's the reality of the situation, the Big One show.
Because I think as the consumers, the visiting anglers, as they drop off, and you find yourself stood there, not us, because it were great for us, but our expectations are low as an up-and-coming brand. But if you're a big brand,
big player,
then and nobody comes to your stand, and you've just spent time, effort, planning, money. You've had to ask all them staff to come and work for 3 or 4 days because they don't just turn up at 9 and leave at 5. Then why would they then go to that trouble? Do you think? Because there's a few things that went off. Selling at the shows became a thing. Now, from what I can gather, where fishing's too expensive and where people can't get to see the stuff and I can't get at my local shop, surely shows that were selling would have been a massive attraction.
Yeah.
But yeah, all I heard were it's just a car boat.
Yeah.
I don't know if that came from the trade or if that came from the consumers, because the consumers surely should be.
They're quite happy with it, aren't they? You see them with the big bag of boilies, don't they? Like walking out the show, and we obviously did well selling bits of elastics and floats and stuff like that. But they are a selling show now, aren't they? Largely.
Yeah.
I think every brand sells now at these shows and stuff. I don't know what the answer is, Mick, with it, to be honest. And I think maybe a different format in a different part of the country is the answer. Because I think there is still a place for a public show where they come and chat and try the kit and everything.
Interaction.
But I don't think that is the way anymore. I don't think going and standing in a big hall is...
But yet we've just said that the carp big hall full of people and stands, they're thriving.
Yeah, I don't think they go fishing though, do they? I think they like tackle more than they like fishing.
So our sort of target audience are going fishing.
Maybe. Well, I hope so. Yeah, I don't know whether it's a location thing. I'm sure if you went and did it in Donny, I'm sure you get a load of people there. So
providing the attraction and the content. So if we manage to get all the best anglers,
all the best match brands there.
But we're never going to get the match brands here, are we?
That is the problem, isn't it? Because without, we can go as much and do as much as we want, but without Preston and Maver and Matrix and Guru and Drennan and whoever, it ain't going to happen, is it?
No, because if Drennan don't go, Alan Scotthorne doesn't go. If Preston don't go, Des Ship and Lee Kerry don't go. Massive issue. And they're never going to go, as it happens, because quite aware that their head office is now in Europe, which means all the show structure and all the sort of manpower and the logistics just make it that it's impossible. Yeah. But then again, having said that, I don't think they do shows in Europe, so it must be that they just don't see the value in it. And
what is the answer?
I don't know. I'm trying. When I think there's a problem, I was trying to peel the layers off and find out what the problem is. You can then, because as an ex-fitter, I couldn't repair something until I knew how it worked and what the problem was then. Because that's not working, which is why it's not. Blah blah blah. So, is there too much information on social media today? Is what we're doing talking about dark and light ground baits? Does that mean that people don't have to come to the show?
There's even more, though, on the carp side. There's even more information.
Of course there is. So it's not that, is it?
I don't think it's that. I just think it needs a different format, a different outlook. I think we need these open days. It's fair to say we're going to give them a go, aren't we, this year?
Yeah.
Rather than
we've got two booked in.
Yeah, we've got 2 booked in. These one at Aston Park.
Yep.
And where's the other one?
Alders Farm.
So 2 great open days. Obviously, we're doing the coaching thing.
Yeah. 1-to-1, but that's only like 12 people.
It is, yeah. But what I'm trying to say is, yeah, we're not doing the big one, but we are trying other avenues to try and see what is out there. It may be that we put more time into coaching. It may be that these open days, which we've been told were really good last year, probably more appealing to anglers.
But then you'd have to have one on everybody's doorstep, because
you would, yeah.
people aren't going to travel all the way. Let's say, for instance, somebody's coming from Kent to an open day at Alders Farm, because that'd be his nearest one, and there's only a little table, or even worse, me and you sat in a seat box, or Phil Cannon or Sam Collett, or any one of our great, if there's a feeder fishing, we've got Wayne and people. So they go, well, I'm not travelling that way for that.
But so maybe that is the thing that they want to travel for. And you back it up with everything else.
But you'd need lots of other people and brands and anglers to give them the day out.
We need to team up is the answer, isn't it?
Queuing up, wouldn't you? If you wanted to come and see Joe Caris, you'd have to queue behind the other 150 people, and there's not enough hours in the day.
One of them's my missus. She probably wouldn't anyway. She'd go and sit behind Matt.
Your mum always supports you, doesn't she? But that, so then the actual mechanics of it don't work, do they? So you'd have to have an open day every weekend.
Yeah.
And how can you then master your skills? So you've worked Monday to Friday, you need a day off. And that's the one thing that I've clocked straight away as as the person who's got to make this decision. Right, let's do all these open days. That's 15 weeks. They're all in summer. That's your summer gone.
Yeah.
So you've worked Monday to Friday.
Yep.
You spent all weekend. When do you go fishing? Because of course, who wants to come and talk to a bloke that never goes fishing?
Yeah.
It's a real conundrum, isn't it?
It's really difficult.
I've been to see what the viewers think.
Yeah, what do you want to see for a show? Or is there even a need for it? Or are these open days, are these the modern shows? Or is there a place for a northern show? Match fishing, or not match fishing?
I don't think it's called a match fishing.
No, go on.
It's called platch fishing. Pleasure and match, or more importantly, pleasure fishing in a match style.
I think that's the one, platch
anglers. I think that's what the world's full of. And unfortunately, and I've always said this about the game, the industry, is that carp fishing involves some very serious people who want to go and catch the big fish, and they're driven and they really want it, and they'll excel themselves. And your Terry Earns and your Danny Fairbrasses and some of, I'm not familiar with them all, but you know what I mean. They're them kind of guys. And then you've got these match anglers, and they're crazy. They have bait fridges. They will travel the length and the breadth of the country. They have a van just for the tackle.
The hardcore.
Yeah, and they spend all night tying hooks, and they don't watch telly, and they don't go on holiday. They just go fishing.
Yeah.
And they're the people that lead the fishing industry, trade, the whole infrastructure, the shows, the whole thing. They're kind of the pioneers, and they're the ones that are breaking new ground and pushing things forward. And so therefore, everything leads down that path or that path. But ultimately, the industry is made up of people who aren't that serious. Yeah. It kind of tapers away, doesn't it? And then the bit in the middle where Coram was, which is the pleasure fishing. I mean, they might go and catch a big carp, but and I walk around the lake sometimes if I'm on my holidays, and there's a bloke fishing, he's got a bite alarm there and a pole.
Yeah, that's the classic, isn't it?
Yeah, and what is he then? He's a platch catch angler, or because he's got carp.
Platch carp angler.
Yeah, exactly. We've got carblers, haven't we? Carp and barbel. So, because I think what me personally, deep down, would love to enlarge and attract and develop is the platch anglers. And I'd like our brand to be more in line with that, because I think that's realistic.
I think we are, aren't we? I think that's...
We try to be, but we're match anglers at heart.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm more known for being a match angler than I'm a pleasure angler, and you do a bit of both, and more latterly you're doing a lot of pleasure fishing, and you've got people following you for that. But I think it's important to try and find what it is that those people are looking for and give it to them, not just come meet the world's best match angler, which is another story. I went Matt Godfrey and the Eagle Will Rays and then Alan Scott on.
Because ultimately people just want the float to go under or the tip to go around, don't they, more?
Yeah, of course they do.
And I know tackle's obviously a big part of that, and they want to come and see the tackle, but I think being able to get to a lakeside and see people actually catch fish, I think surely that's what people want, isn't it? And when I saw that Aston Park Roadshow last year, or Open Day, or whatever they called it, I thought, yeah, that's brilliant, isn't it? Because you've got lads fishing, and you've got the tackle, so you've got the best of both worlds, and surely that's the future, isn't it?
Well, we'll be there. Along, I think Gora were there, we're there, and some of our guys will be there, and we'll learn from that. The problem with it is, it's another year before we can do anything about it. Things move very slowly, so yeah, be interested to see what the viewers at home actually think they'd like to see.
Show-wise?
Yeah.
Or event?
Do they want interaction? Do they not want interaction? Do they just want hardcore? Because I noticed when you put a post out about new products, and we're doing the whole walkthrough for the product, which is trying to explain what it does, how it works, all the different scenarios, and we try and build that up over a period of 2 or 3 weeks so that everybody gets a chance to see all the different facets before the product's released. And all people, how much is it? Is it out? Can I get it? It's like raw, but not everybody's that way, are they? Some people actually want the romance of the journey of thinking about going fishing. Do people enjoy going fishing, or do people like to be at home collecting tackle, making rigs, and not always going fishing?
Yeah. Do you like doing rigs and prep and stuff?
Hate it.
So I saw someone the other day say, when you put a post about it, saying that for him that's the best part. I'm like,
it's the worst part.
Come on, man.
If I never had to tie another hook or tie another rig or rethread my rods ever again, I'd love to be able to just do that. Unfortunately, you're never going to be as good as you need to be by just rocking up.
No, but you'd have a great time, wouldn't you?
Yeah, just go fishing.
Just go fishing.
It'd be great, wouldn't it?
It'd be great.
Fly fishing.
More fishing, less prep.
Fly fishing looks great to me, and lure fishing, you've got a bag about that big, you can leave your rod set up, you just clip another one on, tie another fly on it, and it goes, or another lure.
We should come up with a competition, like the lack of prep match. I'd win that.
No, Rob would win that.
Yeah, Rob would be good at that. On that one, are we ever going to do a match event? Because someone did ask that. Oh. Is that something we do in the future? Is it something we're looking to do? Because I know obviously this is close to your heart because you did Feeder Masters, launch Feeder Masters.
Yep.
Now the Bait Tech Feeder Masters. We've got ties with Feeder King, Nufish Feeder King, at Southfield, which is an event we cover and sponsor and help out with where we can.
Yeah. Super League, Feeder Masters Super League.
Feeder Masters Super League again. Is there any more, or is it
Winter Pair?
Is that a thing that Nufish would look into doing, or does that go against our platch fishing sort of?
Yeah, I'm conscious of not.
Very easy to think everyone's a match angler, isn't it?
Stereotyping us and stereotyping everybody else and pigeonholing people and going, it's all about match fishing, because it's not all about match fishing. I think there's more people fishing a match style with match tackle because that's what their friend or their neighbour did, or how they got into fishing, whatever behind that. But the answer to your question is that when I first came up with the idea of Feeder Masters, I didn't want to run it, and I harboured the thought for at least 18 months before not me, my brother actually said, I've got the perfect man to run that, Lee Kerry. Rang Lee Kerry up, get it organised.
So what was the trigger for that then? Obviously the rise in popularity of feeder fishing, you could see it coming.
It was a personal, I'd fished the Riverfest, loved the format.
But had your England journey already started at this point?
Yeah.
Feeder we were, Champs had already been a thing.
I tell you when the light bulb moment, I think it was my birthday, we were in Holland, and there was it was like a precursor to a World Championships, but it was 1 or 2 years away, but they were pitching to have that venue as a World Champs. So they organised a European Cup style friendly, and England took 3 teams. Tommy were like, right, I've got the feeder team, and then all these people who were like tapering.
Got potential sort of thing.
Yeah, people with aspirations of fishing for England, and he were fielding people, and there were some fantastic fishermen in that. We had 3 teams, and there were 30 odd teams, I think, from Holland, France, Belgium, Germany, and all coming off this match. And I was like, wow, this feeder fishing's really taking off. And I thought, I'm going to go back home, I'm not going to be able to find a match.
So I need to do something about it.
I need to do something about it. So Feeder Masters was born, and I just basically copied the great format that Dave Harold done with Riverfest and put it into place.
And it's become one of the most popular events.
It's massive. there's times when I go, whose idea was it to run a match? Fortunately, we've got, events manager Lee Kerry, who, because myself and my brother own Feeder Masters, and we only really need to get involved when the workload is far too much for Lee on a day-to-day basis. He does all the running, and then when it comes to the final, now yourself involved, Dad gets involved, every man and his dog you can get to it, and we run this competition. But it's hard to run matches, and ultimately, I think you then put yourself in that. So we've got a fantastic sponsor in Bait Tech, and they promote it, we promote it, and it's a self-contained entity, and I love it. We sponsor Feeder King, as you've said, which is a great competition. It's local to us. Mick and Andy do a great thing. We love it, and the reason why I've mentioned the amount of effort that goes into running them is massive.
It's a full-time job, isn't it?
And
for those lads,
I want us to concentrate on the core thing, which is content for people, helping people fish, catch more fish, and hopefully trying to develop products that enable people to catch more fish, or service the needs of people that there's a product that they need to fit into, fill a gap or that type of thing, and that's important. And I'd love to run another match. I've had all sorts of thoughts, but the problem today is, like everything else, it's all about the headlines.
Yeah.
So if you went and run a match, let's say that the prize was modest, it'd be like, oh, that's not a very good match, is it? Because it's not big enough. I hate that idea.
Yeah.
And which is why it's all about prestige. And we put more effort into the prestige of Feeder Masters than we do about the prize fund. So the winner's purse has only gone up from, it was £12,000 at the beginning and 15, and I don't want it to ever rise up. Any kind of
you're never looking for 20 or 30 or 40 grand or whatever.
If we can generate, money in the prize pot, we actually send the money downhill, and we now pay 20 people.
Yeah, it's amazing, that is.
And that's more appealing to me. So I'm not going to say that we won't run a match, but
because I mean, it's looking from an outsider looking in, it's obvious that commercial fishing needs a Feeder Masters, in my opinion. Like something that's not a winner only goes through. And I know they do it with like golden reel, golden rod,
golden
the
rod,
feeder only one.
But that's winter.
Yeah. Whereas I think in the summer they're crying out for something like that, where it's not just the winner, and it's not a Fishermania or whatever. They're great. They do their own thing, but I think commercial fishing's crying out for that. Whether it's us that ever do it, probably not. But
when you say winner, you mean to qualify for the final?
It's always the winner that goes through in it. Whereas I think the Feeder Masters format and the Riverfest format, where you get three zones and 3 people go through, I think that's brilliant. Because you're fishing a 20 peg match, aren't you, to get through? More finalists. I think it's crying out for it in commercial fishing. But whoever does it,
I'll give Lee a ring on the way home and see if he's got room to squeeze another one in.
And
we'll do a commercial
Masters.
Commercial Feeder Masters.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be feeder fishing, does it? Just commercial fishing. But
yeah, because it's all, like you said, they've not actually got that format.
They haven't got that format
in fishing.
It just amazes me that no one's copied it. It really does.
I'd love to see an All England Championships is deep down.
What's that then? All England.
I mean that it's accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
I was reading an article that somebody...
Isn't Feeder Masters accessible to everyone though?
Yes, yeah, it is. But what I mean by that is that people, because there's a prize pot to grab the headlines to make it the prestige, it's got this financial thing involved. And the way to make Feeder Masters complete and successful is to sell all the tickets. So we sell all the tickets all in one go on one day. The primary reason for that is to make sure that the prize pot is there, because when you say come to our fishing match, this is what it looks like. This is the final. There's a marquee. There's a lovely trophy. There's top 20 are paid. It's an event. People travel for the final. The most important thing is to make sure that there's enough money at the beginning
to actually do it all,
to finish the job. Because there's that, and then therefore there's a cost of the tickets, and you have to buy them all in one go to make sure that we sell them all, so that we don't finish up at the end and going, sorry lads, we're only fishing for 2 bob and a conker.
Which has happened.
It's happened recently
not in our event.
Not in our event, but it's finished in other events where they've had to adjust the prize fund right at the end because they've not basically managed to raise the funds to pay everybody on the promised payout. Then therefore you have to have a cost, and then people go, well, 10 tickets is 400 quid. it's accessible if you want that type of competition. But what about where there's just one match? It's a one-off. It's the middle of July.
Yep.
Better not, because that's somebody's birthday. It's the middle of July, and it's a modest entry fee. The fishing is not pigeon-doled. Any method.
Any method, yeah.
Feeder, bomb, waggler, stickleback fishing, whip. You can do what you want.
Centre pin.
And it's basically this massive, great big match where you have a big headquarters. Everybody comes together, and people fish for the prestige.
No money.
No money. Free to enter.
Yep.
You don't win anything apart from the beautiful Nufish trophy.
Nufish trophy. I love that idea, because obviously that's a big part of what they do on the continent, isn't it? They fish for pride, don't they? They fish for prestige rather than money through value. Because that's very much a UK thing, isn't it? Fishing for money.
Absolutely, because everybody says you can't beat these people, it's too expensive, there's not one near me, blah, blah, blah. All right then, sound. Take the money out of it, there's no entry fee. Take away the big head thing, because there's no 50 grand. So you're not then financially putting this sort of desire, and people aren't chasing this big check.
Yep.
And it's any method. You can do what you want.
Yep.
How on earth we're going to find headquarters for 1,000 people? I'll put it out there.
1,000 people?
1,000
Where are we going?
All the way down the Erin Calder Canal, all the way up the Sterney Canal.
Wherever you can get.
Now the
do
new
a walk
junction.
off. As far as you can walk, you can fish.
Could have it down the Welland, the 600 pegs there, I think. Won't catch out that, but
someone will.
But who cares? They didn't use catch out in the big matches that they all
someone
talk about, and that'd be great. But then you need stewards, and you need
weighing teams.
You'd need to pay somebody for 3 months, full time, to field all the calls and the messages and the text messages and the emails
and the marketing.
Where's the draw? And then for the week before the match, to answer 1,000 people going, what time's draw? What time's draw? Where did he set draw?
Least favourite question.
Exactly. I ain't got my ticket through post.
Yeah.
All that carry on. Interested in it. So, do I want to run a match? Yeah, I'd love to run that match, providing I can find somebody to do it.
Yeah. It's got loads of stuff we could do as well.
And he's got 20 people and a massive marquee that'll hold
1,000.
600 or 1,000 people. You have to have several draw buckets like they used to have in these big matches.
Yeah. Which one's one that's got the special pegs in?
So then we need a sponsor, won't we, to cover the cost of all the admin, because who's going to do that for now? Nobody.
No one.
Then we get back to, then it needs promoting, then we turn it into a carnival, and we start all over again. Don't know. I'll hold fire on
come back on that one. What do you think? All England Championship. No money involved. Would that be something that anyone would want to do?
Yeah, fish for pride.
Fish for pride.
Well, Joe, we've covered some great topics there.
Went off on some tangents
great
there, didn't
chat. We burnt some wood.
Yeah,
and so that's the end of this episode.
Yeah, so we just want more and more of your questions. Obviously, we'll respond to as many comments as we can. Pick through them and get some little points of interest that we can discuss every single time we do this, because it's really important that we get stuff off you guys, like comments and interactions, everything in it for this kind of show, in it. So yeah, thank everyone who does that.
And we love everybody tuning in and watching our YouTube. And thanks for subscribing. And please do, if you haven't, keep your eye out for our newsletter on the Nufish website, where we'll notify you of anything that's changing, any events, any new products, and of course these videos. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode of The Mixing Bowl.